That's okay. Yeah. Sound is but that which is truthful and that which may be false or made up. But one of the main reasons why I wanted to deliver a lecture slightly different to that which is common is those who actually go through the difficulty of being afflicted. Many people will live life from their early years. That's not the jinn, that's just Shaykhana Isa is messing around with the audio. Many people will go through their lives from young ages thinking that this is something simple or normal for them. Maybe anxiety, levels of panic, the heart racing, for normal things, going to school, studying, going to madaris. From one of the clients that I've had to, and it was a ni'mat in itself. Me was a young boy, only 13 years old. Young boy, you see him has the sifat of Allah knows best, but the sifat of ikhlas, sincerity, humbleness, would always drop his head, always wanting to help and benefit you. And so his story was one of him unable to pray salah. Someone who there's no reason for him to abstain from salah or go to masajid and pray in jama'ah, or sometimes even in school when the salah will be announced, he will hide himself in a bathroom. And so when I asked him, what is it that you feel, what is the actual feeling that you have, it was a feeling of panic, and his heart rate would increase, anxiety, fear, worry, all in a small amount of time, literally with a click of a finger. And you ask him, what's the cause of these feelings? Wallahi, I don't. Every time you ask many people from their youth who may have some abnormalities in the way that they think maybe, or the way that they behave, or some things where you see them and it's just strange and abnormal. And you ask them, what's the cause? Why do you get anxiety in this particular time? Why do you feel fear? Why do you feel panic? Why do you feel worry? Why? I don't know. There's no reason for it. Many times people will travel, or they will live majority of their life going through certain symptoms. Go to doctors, what did they prescribe? Medication. You go to certain individuals who say, don't worry about it. It's just you as an individual. You're the one at fault. Hatta you go to some imams and mashayikh. Which ayat do they give you when you're saying, my heart is tight? I feel tight. I feel away from Allah. I feel like I'm despairing from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Which ayat do they use generally speaking and they blame you for? وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِ فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا. The one who stays away from the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will have a constricted life. Yet the same people you're telling that you're away from Allah, maybe you recite Baqarah twice a day. Who from amongst us recites Baqarah twice a day? Who from amongst us can say that they do the morning and evening adhkar, and they're generally not away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? They don't commit dhunub, generally speaking, yet they have difficulty in their chest, tightness and worries in their chest. As soon as they wake up, a heaviness settles in their mind, the heaviness settles in their chest. This is not the ayah to be used. But many people use this ayah from the people of knowledge for these individuals, which is only compounding whatever's afflicting them from the unseen. The correct ayah to use, إِنَّمَا النَّجْوَى مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ لِيَحْزُنَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. The shayateen, they're the ones that have Allah's given them this ability to, from amongst the believers, cause them pain and suffering. And this terminology, huzn, ham, gham, is not restricted to the kuffar. By Allah, is not restricted to the kuffar. There's many righteous slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that will go through certain symptoms like this, difficulties. And you'll find that they do as much as they can do from istighfar, from dua, from adhkar, from umrah, from sadaqah, yet they will still have certain feelings in their chest. And they will never know, or they will never come to a conclusion to why they have these feelings. But they will blame themselves, or they will start to blame themselves because the shayateen have makr behind them. They plot and they plan. And they will wait 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, hatta Imam Ahmed, just before he was passing away. What did he say? Not yet. And his son was like, what do you mean? Why are you saying what you're saying? Because even up in his whole life, the shayateen came right just before his death to try to take him away from the Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the reason I wanted to mention it in this way, a gift to the one who's afflicted, because what people understand is not always the reality. The cause of you feeling pain is not because you're away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, abadan. The cause of the difficulties and the pains and the physical pains that you may be going through is not because you're away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The depression, quote unquote, that we use this terminology, depression, it's not because you're away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If that was the case, then how did Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam feel this? Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, akthar himayatan, the most protected man who ever stood on the face of the earth. When he went to Ta'if, and on his travels back to Ta'if after he was pelted with stones for about 46 kilometers, I believe it was, what did he feel? He was in extreme distress. That's one of the hardest days of his life, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The amount of worry, pain, being upset, huzn that he was feeling at that time was not because he's away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hasha lillah. How can Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam ever be away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The point being is he felt certain things, that which we may have a similitude to feeling, from huzn, from depression, from pains, and other than that, from the tools that have been given to the shayateen to affect believers and non-Muslims alike. So the goal today, insha'Allah ta'ala, is to nurture the heart of the believers who may be affected by certain things from the unseen. From them, ayn, from them hasad, from them sihr, from them mas shaytani, and other forms of afflictions that we come to know of both from the Kitab and Sunnah and from the experience of the ruqa upon the Kitab and the Sunnah, those who know what they are talking about and they stay within the remits of the Kitab and Sunnah. The first of 5, we'll stick to 5 inshaAllah ta'ala, a'mal al-qulub, the actions of the heart, and I would like to link it with a mindset to have. And these are more for those who are afflicted or those who are around people who are afflicted. One of the things that we must understand is the shayateen, with their evil, they don't leave the believers alone. If they can afflict an individual, do you really believe that they're going to only afflict that individual? Do you not think that they're going to try to bring harm in the household of the individual? Fitna, arguments, difficulties, loss of life, wealth. The shayateen have, and Allah's allowed them to do so, certain abilities to affect the believers, from them health conditions, medical conditions, arguments, and the likes. The first mindset or the action of the heart that we want to focus on is Allah loves you. Every individual who goes through something from the unseen, usually it revolves around removing that individual from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how do they do that? Either they do that fi'lan, they'll make actions, so they'll put you in a situation where you may commit a sin, or they'll make you feel as if you are no longer under the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the shayateen have the ability to do stuff like this only with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so once you nurture the heart and you nurture the mind to protect yourself from their wasawis, again, be it in terms of action or be it in terms of feeling, it will allow you to have your fortresses from the fortresses that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided for us. From them dua, from them morning and evening adhkar, from them recitation of Surah Al-Baqarah, and other than that. One of the most important things to understand is just because you're going through a difficulty, and that difficulty may be something of depression, it may be something of family loss, it could be loss of wealth, it could be the situation where every time you try to facilitate something good for you, it never happens. Every time you buy a car, something happens to it. Every time you try to do something for your home, it fails. Every time you try to do something financially, it fails. From the hadith that we can take and we can understand, in Sahih Bukhari, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was no doubt, the most beloved man to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yet, Aisha radiallahu anha, she says, I never saw anybody suffering so much sickness as the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In another hadith where it was mentioned, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas in Tirmidhi, أشد الناس بلاء الأنبياء, the most severe in trials, difficulties are the prophets, then those that are closest to them, and then those that are closest to them. Why are we mentioning these? Because sometimes the shayateen from wasawis affect the individual by making them believe that the reason they're going through these difficulties is because they're away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they will compound it with feelings, they will compound it with maybe possible failures that you have in life. They'll compound it in many, many, many ways. But if you understand and remember core principle that's mentioned by Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, that if you're trialed and that trial brings you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not from Allah being angry with you, but it's the opposite. Allah actually loves you. I know many, many people that have been trialed in this affliction from ain or hasad or sihr. Before then, they never prayed a salah in their life. After this situation, they prayed the salawat, the wajibat of course, and the sunan rawatib. From them, they've never made a dua in their life. Now they're the most regular in qiyamul layl. From them are those who they don't know any of their morning or evening askar, and now they never leave it. But any trial, any difficulty that brings you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then know that it's from His love, Jalla fi'ala. In the same hadith, Allah mentions, or Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentions that an individual is trialed on the level of their faith. And so if there is strength in his faith, the trial will be according to it. And from one of the most difficult trials that I've seen, without a shadow of a doubt, is the trials of the unseen. From them, ain, hasad, sihr, mas, shaitani, and all other difficulties that come from that particular situation. Another hadith, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned, if Allah loves a people, He trials them. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves a people, and the word needs to give, it can't remain just a word. When Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, if Allah loves a people, He trials them, this really needs to nurture your heart. It has to be somewhat not understood by just the mind, but that which is in the chest. Another mention of another hadith, if Allah loves a person, He will test him, subhanahu wa ta'ala. And from the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will find that if anyone is tested and they overcome that trial or that tribulation, you will find him at the forefront of something else. For example, if someone's going through a situation where they overcame the battles of the shayateen, many times you'll find that he actually becomes a raqib, or a family member is afflicted with a jinn or something along the lines, and he now is involved in the battle. He's fighting. Allah is giving him tarbiyah and nurturing him, giving him understanding, practically on the front line against the shayateen. And so Allah puts him in a position, or her in a position, that they weren't before. They were never in that position, and they could never have achieved that position except through a trial. So in essence, the difficulties that you go through is a madrasa from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to nurture the hearts of the believers, to get them close to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second mindset, or the second action of the heart, we would say, is nothing can harm a believer except if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills it. There's nothing in this earth or outside this earth, hatta al-Iblis himself cannot affect a believer except if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills it. And there's some discussion amongst the ruqa. The reason I mention this is because it's kind of funny. One of the mashayikh, one of the ruqa, he's been doing ruqya for a number of years, and there is a difference amongst the scholars. Does this actually happen or does it not happen? Wallahu a'lam, it seems that it has happened, because it happened to many ruqa in the past. One time he was doing ruqya on a particular individual, and then the individual was overtaken by his affliction. The one that started to speak on the other side, he claimed that it was Iblis. But he started talking to the sheikh. He was like, oh, you need to stop doing what you're doing. So the sheikh, Palestinian, is strong, play games. He goes, what would you give me if I was to stop? I'll give you the dunya and everything in it. But they had a back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Towards the end, the Shaykh said, Wallahi al-Azim, I will never leave the action that I'm upon for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do what you want. He said one ayah, فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. And the anger that the jinn showed in that particular situation was on levels the Shaykh never saw before. And he left. But point being, even if it's Iblis himself, won't be able to affect a believer in anything. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions in a hadith, or Ibn Abbas mentions, young man, I will teach you some words. Be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and He will protect you. Be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you will find Him before you. If you ask from Him subhanahu jalla fi'ala. And if you seek help from Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Know, and this is the important bit, Wallahi al-Azim, for anyone who's afflicted, if they really, really pay attention to this bit of the hadith, you will literally go into every single battle, even if it's Iblis and his whole army together, it wouldn't affect you in the slightest. Know that if the nations gathered together to benefit you, they could not benefit you unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed this for you. And if the nations gathered together to harm you, they could not harm you unless it is decreed by Allah Jalla fi'ala. The pens have been lifted and the pages have dried. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran many ayat for us to take benefit from, for us to ponder upon, and to actually use and cultivate our hearts when we're fighting against one of the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in this instance, it's the shayateen and the awliya. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, no disaster strikes a believer upon the earth or amongst yourselves, except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has registered in a register before it comes into being. Indeed, this is easy for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The next ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah was I think most people probably are aware of this particular ayah. وَاتَّبَعُوا مَا تَتْلُو الشَّيَاطِينُ عَلَى مُلْكِ سُلَيْمَانَ وَمَا كَفَرَ سُلَيْمَانُ. At to the end of it, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and the people, they learned magic to harm and to cause a rift between a husband and wife. وَيُفَرِّقُونَ بِهِ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَزَوْجِهِ. However, their magic could not harm anyone except by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For any difficulty you go through from the unseen, it's not because the shayateen are strong. Abadan. It's not because they have any ability over the believers. No. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them this particular ability and from His wisdom to increase you in ranks that you would never have perceived if you didn't go through this affliction. Having the understanding that nothing can harm you except if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed it, it cultivates the heart. It strengthens the heart. It allows the heart to, in essence, have a greater level of connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what's important when fighting against the shayateen or fighting against enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of the most important aspects is to protect the heart. Once the heart is in a good state, everything else will follow upon goodness. The third mindset would say, and remember we're only going to go through 5 briefly inshallah ta'ala. The third mindset to have is having good thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having husnul dhan in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is probably from one of the most cornerstone aspects of your aqeedah and your belief in Allah Jalla fi'ala. The reason being is because the shayateen will try to make you despair in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and make you have a feeling towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, why me? Why am I not cured? When Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned about Surah Al-Baqarah, أخذها بركة وتركها خسرة, and the magicians can't affect you, yet I'm still afflicted. Many people have this, having good thoughts about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed for you to be cured, Allah will cure you with harf. But again, like any madrasa, it takes time. If that cure was better for you today, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have cured you from it. However, Allah delays things for a reason. Sometimes we will understand, sometimes we may never understand it. But generally speaking, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will only prevent a cure from the unseen if it is better for you in terms of the dunya and in terms of the akhirah. When Ibrahim alayhi salam spoke of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentioned, or he is seen in terms of his husnul dhan. He says, who has created me, it is he who has guided me. It is he who feeds me, and it is he who gives me drink. And when I'm ill, it is he who cures me. And who will cause me to die, and then will bring me back to life again. The fruits of having good thoughts of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that the level of good that you have of him, or the level of thoughts that you have of him upon goodness, brings about that which is required from a slave, or that which a slave may want. In a hadith, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he mentions that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, I am as my slave thinks of me, and I am with him wherever he remembers me. And Ibn Mas'ud said, and I swear by the one who there is nothing worthy of worship but him, that there is no slave who perfects his assumptions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give him what he assumed. And all of that good is in the hands of Allah Jalla fi'ula. And all of that good is in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The opposite is also true. The attacks of the shayateen, in terms of the mindset of the believers and in terms of the heart, will make you despair of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and think that you're far beyond his mercy, you're far beyond his love or his protection. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ. Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, O my servants who have exceeded the limits against their souls, do not despair or do not lose hope in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives all sins. He is indeed the all-forgiving, the most merciful. It's very, very important for every believer to fight the doubts that the shayateen give with ilm. And after ilm, amal. Without these two cornerstones, we are always going to be affected with the wasawis of the shayateen. Be it again, shubuhat, and the two S's, shubuhat and shahawat. They can't affect you in terms of doubt, shubuhat, and it may be something of weakness, maybe something to do with ilhad, atheism, or something similar. If it's not to do with doubt, they'll try to get you in terms of shahawat. Doubt is expelled by knowledge, and shahawat is expelled by that which is halal. So anytime they try to put you on a path of desires, know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you a better path in Islam, a permissible path, a halal path that gives you barakah and goodness and khair. The fourth mindset, or the fourth action of the heart, is as-sabr. Sabr is a foundation of the believer in terms of his heart, his mind, his body, physically, mentally, and emotionally. Some of the scholars have mentioned sabr to be, Allah has made patience like a horse that never gets tired, an army that can never be defeated, and a strong fortress that can never be breached. Patience and victory are twin brothers, for victory comes with patience, relief comes with distress, and ease comes with hardship. Patience is more help to the one who has it than men, as it helps without any need of equipment or numbers, and its relationship to victory is like that of the head of the body. How much comfort does one get when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions many times in the kitab, Inna Allah ma'as sabirin, Allah is with the patient one. And patience doesn't come as one block. You'll find many levels of patience, and that can only really be seen when one goes through difficulty. No one can truly claim that they have been patient upon something except if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has tried them in a particular type of trial. And so it's a sign for the believers, and is a sign of those who are close to Allah Jalla fi'ula, where Allah mentions again, and if you endure patiently, verily it is better for the sabirin. It is better for the sabirin. And all you who believe, endure and be more patient than your enemy, and guard your territory by stationed army until units permanently at the place from where the enemy can attack you, and fear Allah so that you may be successful. So there's a direct correlation between patience and success. And again, in a battle like this, it may not be a battle of a week. Sometimes it may be a battle longer than that, of months, or even more in terms of years. We ask Allah Jalla fi'ala to allow us to be from the patient. طيب. The last mindset, or the last action of the heart that we will cover is tawakkul. Is having your reliance put into Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with full conviction. For the difficulties that come to pass are only with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and nothing can harm you, and nothing can benefit you, and nothing can give you goodness or bring you evil except if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed it for you. In essence, tawakkul relieves the heart of worry. And when the heart is in a state of peace, he allows himself to overcome many trials. One of the companions heard Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu say, I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say, if you really put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will provide for you as He provides for the birds. Do you not see that they go out with an empty stomach and come back with full stomachs? Another hadith, and this hadith is from one of the most beloved hadith that I've come across in terms of this particular bab, where it says, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu says, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Allah said, so it's hadith Qudsi, I will declare war against him who shows hostility to a pious worshipper of mine. And the most beloved things with which my slave comes nearer to me is that which I have enjoyed upon him, and my slave keeps coming closer to me through performing nawafil till I love him. So I become his sense of hearing which he hears, and his sense of sight with which he sees, and his hand that which he grips, and his leg that which he walks with, and if he asks, I will surely give him. And if he asks for my protection, I will protect him. And I do not hesitate to do anything as I hesitate to take the soul of the believer, for he hates death, and I hate to disappoint him. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the reason I use that is when a believer goes through difficulties, especially from the unseen again, they may recite a particular ayah, they may recite a particular dua, falaq, nas, and they may not see that the answer of that or the relief straight away or immediately. Again, it's for the heart to have tawakkul, trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and know that the faraj is always going to be close. After every difficulty there is ease, and the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never fails. The next portion inshallah ta'ala that we will cover after which I believe is probably the most important things to have, the amal al-qulub, actions of the heart, is actually discussing ayn, hasad, some of its realities, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Okay. Is to mention things related to the unseen. And why would we mention this? We'd mention this so we get to understand, or we get to have an understanding of that which is linked to the unseen. And this is why most people want to listen to these type of lectures to see where their correlation is and where the connection is. So ayn, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned in hadith that the evil eye is real, and if anything were to overtake qadr, it would have been the evil eye. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam also mentioned in another hadith, whoever amongst you sees something in himself or in his possessions or in his brother that he likes, let him pray for blessings for it because the evil eye is real. Okay, blessings for it because the evil eye is real. You have two types of ayn. Okay. Does anyone know the two types of ayn that you have? Anyone? No? Everyone's shy. Okay. One is good, one is bad. You have two types of hasad, one is good and one is bad. Yeah. So the Sheikh's mentioning hasad, do you know the name of the good one? Jameel. Yeah. Do you know what it's called? What type of hasad it is? It's correct, Sheikh is correct. In terms of hasad, you have two types of hasad. Generally speaking, and it's mentioned in hadith, so hasad ghibta is when someone's doing something praiseworthy. So you see an imam, or you see a sheikh, and you're having you'll say jealousy for that individual, but not where you want to take his ni'am from him. But you want to achieve the same that he's achieving, or you want to surpass him. That's something praiseworthy in the deen. In terms of the types of ain that you have, I mean, there's scholarly differences, but you will say that there's predominantly two types: ain al-mu'jabah, ain al-hasid. Ain al-mu'jabah is that which you see. For example, they say Shaykhana Isa has a Ferrari. Okay, he's made up. He doesn't have a Ferrari, so there's not going to be no ain or hasad towards that particular vehicle. So he has a Ferrari. Okay, brother comes and sees his Ferrari. It's like, Sheikh Isa, how did you? This car's amazing, bro. It's so sick. And he has no malice towards it at all. No malice. He's actually happy that he has this vehicle. Sheikh Isa is driving down the road, inshallah, in his Quran, accident. Allah musta'an. Okay. He had an accident. Accidents are normal, صح? But the cause of the accident was the eye. The cause of the accident was the eye. Okay. Now, Sheikh Isa bought another Ferrari. This is a couple of months later, inshallah. He's very wealthy, Allah. A brother comes to see him, a different brother. He's like, oh man, sick car. You can tell from the individual, he does not want Isa to have. He has evil towards it. He wants to take that Ferrari away from him. He doesn't want him to have that ni'am, that blessing. Oh yeah, nice car, nice car. Doesn't say barakallahu feek or barakallahu alayk. Sheikh Isa driving, accident. Exactly the same as the first individual. The effects is exactly the same, but the reality is different. One didn't intend it, the other one did. But the effects are exactly the same. طيب? It's clear? Clear? Everyone get it? Some people think that the evil eye can only come from humans, towards other humans. It's a hadith, and it's called, for the third category, it's called Nazara. Okay, the eye, again, called the eye. The hadith where Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentions, or is mentioned that he saw in a house a slave girl with a discoloration on her face. So he said, perform ruqya for her, for she has been afflicted by the eye of the jinn. She has been afflicted by the eye of the jinn. There's actually other scholarly discussions about the eye, and they say, can animals give the eye? Can animals give the eye? And wallahu alam, it seems that they can as well. So it's best to, if you treat one cat right, make sure you treat the other cat right. And you don't want to get evil eye from cats and other animals. Yeah. But some people come to the reason why I mention this, because some people don't consider the eye with its importance that it has. The evil eye is dangerous. Dangerous. Some of the people that I've been dealing with in terms of the cases, all from the evil eye. All from the evil eye. So be careful with your ni'am. Protect them. And make sure that you praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And sometimes you may come across individuals who you always have this particular feeling. Oh yeah, we'll leave that to the end anyway. We'll come to that later, inshallah. Bakhair. So, what's ayn al-mu'jabah? If anyone can put their hand up and mention what it is. Ayn al-mu'jabah. Anyone? What is it? What's ayn al-mu'jabah? Forgot. So, ayn al-mu'jabah is the admiring eye. Like we said, the first story of Shaykh Isa, if he sees the Ferrari, he doesn't intend any bad. He doesn't intend any bad. Oh, cool car, cool, nice. But the eye was sent. So he's admiring this particular car, and the effects were an accident. The next one is hasad, when someone wants to take that blessing away from you. They're not happy that you have that blessing. They're not happy that you have that ni'mah. There's a story in the Quran, let's see anybody who knows, where, I don't want to make it obvious, but within the same family, there was hasad. There was people in the same family that had hasad over someone else in the same family. Anyone know? Yusuf alayhi salam. Own families, own brothers. What did Yaqub say? Don't tell your brothers the dream, because they're going to plot against you and plan against you. Okay? The third one is Nazara, and that's from the jinn. It's from the jinn. there's many hadith I've written in terms of mentioning from the companions and stories of the companions where you will find ayn generally being sent. Anyway, you can find these ahadith just in case some people may have doubt. You can find these ahadith. There's many narrated. طيب, what is ayn al-hasad in terms of its reality? Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he says in Zad al-Ma'ad, it is like an arrow is taken from the soul of the envious individual, the one whom causes the affliction of the evil eye, and then it is fired upon the subject of the evil eye. This individual can be affected sometimes and manage to escape it at other times. If one encounters this and is exposed to it, then there will be no protection from its effects. However, it then becomes imperative, if one encounters this, to take care and prepare themselves with the best defense and not allow it to be implanted upon them. It is in this manner that a person can protect themselves from the envious individual and not be affected by them. Sometimes these arrows return to the one whom they belong to, and this archery makes the envious individual feel the same negativity in his life like the negativity he tried to push on his subject. One doesn't need to physically look at someone to give them evil eye. Even a blind man can give an individual the evil eye. One can even give the evil eye merely by listening to the description of the blessings of an individual. This is mentioned by Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah. According to Sheikh Khalid Hibshi is in our time. May Allah protect him. He's from one of the renowned ruqa, and he says it is something evil that comes out of the soul and then attacks an individual. Because there's a few shabab here. One of the things about the evil eye or the hasad, it's like a goo. It attaches to an individual, and it's very difficult to get rid of after you've been hit with it. So if an individual is praying his baqarah constantly, and he's doing his morning and evening azkar, and he's praying salawat on time, and he stays away from ma'asi, and he doesn't put his blessings out there on social media or whatever else have you, the ayn al-hasad may try to affect you, but it won't affect you. If an individual, for example, qadar Allah, he's not so protected, and he's affected by the ayn al-hasad, and it's like a substance that is very difficult to remove. Certain times it will kick off. Example would be, say, brother A has again, a nice car. Every time he tries to go towards the car, the ayn or the hasad will start playing up, affect him, will react, and so it becomes like a sticky substance. And for you to keep burning it away from ruqya, from using other sunan methods like zayt al-zaytun, olive oil, dua, and other methods, it may remove some of the effects, but it will be somewhat of a battle. Another thing that most people don't realize when it comes to ayn and hasad, and this happens often, is due to the ayn or hasad, okay, a jinn can attach to the body now. Due to the ayn or hasad, a jinn can attach to the body. Ayn and hasad somewhat gives you like a target on your back that is a little bit more apparent. And so if you're not doing your azkar, you're not doing your azkar, you're not praying your salawat, you're not doing your basics, literally you've left the front door open. You've left your front door open, your TV's on the wall, your PS5 is there, your money is there, but you're doing this for the shayateen. You've left your heart open for them to come. You've left your mind open for them to attack you. And even physically, they can come and try and attack you. Very, very important for you to have your basis there anyway. If you don't have it, literally you're inviting them in. And one can get hit with ayn al-hasad. The jinn and the shayateen can see that from the fasad. They will fly around, look for believers that are weak. Okay? And it goes back to the first 5 principles. If a believer is sad, do you know who the best, for the shayateen, the best type of person? A sad believer. A sad believer. A believer is always upset, huzn, and he's always upset, crying, or for shayateen it's a field day. They will see this person and they'll be like, okay, let's cause more fitna. So it's imperative to have these 5 core heart or mindsets and actions of the heart to keep your heart firm, protect you from the shayateen. Shaykh Khalid Hibshi, some of the signs and symptoms of ayn al-hasad. Shaykh Khalid Hibshi mentions that the ayn and the hasad has a tremendous effect on the individual. It can influence every part of a person's life, ways that you would never perceive. You'll think, for example, of a brother, he's a good footballer, for example, and one day he was playing, and now he's ruptured a massive muscle in his leg, and his bone had to be reconstructed, and you're thinking it was just from football, it was just a freak accident. But the reality of it was, maybe it was ayn, or maybe it was actually hasad. There is a link between these things, but we don't want to be like some individuals and some of like our aunties and uncles, and everything is ayn hasad. So you drop the water and you purposely, and they'll say, yeah, this was the eye of this individual. You have to be careful. To be careful. Like, it can affect every area of a person's life, religiously, worldly, even morally, and the moral characteristics of an individual. And some of them are summarized in, and this is the summary of Sheikh al-Hibshi, the effects of the mind, in terms of IQ, memory, ability to focus, to understand, effects on livelihood, wealth, income, provisions, effect on beauty, hair, face, skin color, body, and it's ajib where people will say, what people will believe, that these things are just normal situations, but we've seen it time and time again. Literally, there's a brother that I go every week to do hijama for. Not every week, often every month, to do hijama, and he's severely afflicted with like ayn hasad. Every time I go, he shows me his hands is like orange juice. His hands become yellow, like proper yellow. As soon as I put the cups on, start reciting a little bit, then I look at his feet. His feet are black, completely goes dark. After the hijama finishes, his color goes back to normal. But these things are things to pay attention. Generally, you would find people that are hit with hasad, the mashayikh or the ruqa, they will know. They'll see the individual, they'll be like, this guy's been hit, because they see it so often. It's not because they have any sixth sense or something similar. It's because they see it so regularly that you have sifat. You have sifat for people who are affected. In terms of the religion, the worship, the humility, the character, the integrity, effects on a person's morality, modesty, truthfulness, courage, good characteristics, effects on marital life, family, happiness, pregnancy, childbirth, miscarriages, raising and loving children, discord, effect on age or longevity, age-related appearances, and death, because there's many hadith that mention the effect of hasad and death, the effects on the body, power, speed, activity, health, and wellness. Again, people will think, this can be any one of these things can be something just dunyawi. It could be that he's got a bad diet, for example. And it's true, the brother's eating chicken and chips every day, and he's not going to be the most powerful brother that you meet. But for example, I remember one of the brothers in my area. One time I was going past his house, and it was like between maybe Maghrib and Isha, and he's giving adhan. I don't know what salah he was giving adhan for. So I called him up and said, "Akhi, what's going on? You okay?" He was acting a bit weird. I said, "Okay, khair, no problem." I said, "Come with me to my house. I'll just recite on you for a bit." So he was literally dragging his feet as if he was stuck in mud. Until it took 5-minute journey, took about 40 minutes. But these are like clear effects, clear signs of someone who's afflicted. Effect on livestock. Obviously, the Sheikh here is mentioning camels and birds being brought down from the sky. But in our time, you can say our cars. Every time you buy a new car, it has another problem. It's things that just doesn't make sense. You buy another car, it has another problem. You buy this, it has a problem. Houses, you have a problem. It's always something that comes out of nothing. Effects on nature, plants, trees, fruits, burns, and this is an ajib one. I'll come to one when it talks about burns. But one brother that I know, he had kind of signs where he thought it was something normal in terms of his health. And I just done his hijama for him. I said, go get ruqya done. When he was getting ruqya done and the ayat of harq was being recited, the ayat of burning and intending to burn anything from the unseen, they, not only him, but the people around him physically could smell something being burnt. And these things are not things that you have to be skeptical about. Even myself, at one point, a little bit younger, when brothers will come to me, he's like, "Akhi, I can't get up in the morning. I feel sad, I'm depressed. I'll be the one who lifts you out of bed, take you to the gym, and say, oh, life's going to be okay. You're a believer. But some of these situations are difficult. They want to get up. They don't want to stay in bed for 3 months. They don't want to stay in bed for 4 months, constantly putting on weight and all these odd things happening. They don't want to feel like that. But some of these situations are difficult. They need to be worked with. Effects on inanimate objects, cars, devices, gold, women's cosmetics and applications, and so on and so forth. Some of the signs now, inshallah ta'ala. The thing is, I can go through all of these and mention stories for every single one of them, but some of them ones to look out for, especially for yourself and your family. Constant yawning without wanting to sleep, and that could be specific yawning. If you come across a brother who's always yawning particular time, or yourself, or anyone else, family. Example being, every single Friday when you go Jum'ah, yawning. I'm not saying because the khutbah it's a bit boring. Every Jum'ah before you're even there, you're yawning. That's something to look out. Constant burping, appearances of spots and boils on the body and face, hot and cold flushes for no reason, twitching, high-chestedness, tiredness or laziness, insomnia, wasawis. Anyone know what wasawis means? Wasawis. Waswas, same thing. Wasawis. What does it mean? Whispers. Sometimes you hear hadith on nafs, sometimes you think you're speaking to yourself. Sometimes you actually physically hear something. Or you just constantly thought. Always your brain's always ticking over. You want to rest. You don't want to think about these things. Constantly in thought. Putting on weight without necessarily eating more. Cases of cancer. So I remember a time where one of the brothers, student of knowledge, he said, "Akhi, can you recite on a brother, please?" The brother got 4 months to live. He got cancer. Young brother, I think in early 20s. Khalas, no problem. So I went to the brother's shop, waiting for the other brother to come. And he would be delayed. As he was coming in, he was literally dragging his feet. He was like miskeen, he's like proper like had no energy, no strength. Okay, no problem. So we started to recite, we started to do ruqya, and bear in mind his brother doesn't know Arabic at all. So I started in the dua, in the ruqya at the beginning of it. I was saying, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to burn the sihr of cancer. Allahumma ahrik saratan. He started grabbing his liver, and it started from there. So I was like, okay, something's not right. He started grabbing, screaming, like wanted to jump off the bench. Point being, that cancer that he has was from sihr. Unfortunately, he has to take the medical route now, but the cause of it was from sihr. Psychological conditions, delusion, fear, forgetfulness, sleeping, or sleepiness that overtakes you. You're fine, you're woken up, you've gotten ready, coffee, go start to do your hifz, knocked out. Like, I need to sleep half now. Then you wake up, you're like, what happened? You try again, you're like you're gonna knock out again. Likewise, any other action. Like you may be studying in Jamia, in university or whatever have you, or going to work, same thing. As soon as you try to go, you're just fatigued, you have no energy. This is as if you haven't slept. Something to look out for. Headaches, headaches is quite wide, but specific headaches. For example, you do a particular good deed, or you're doing something particular. As soon as you do that, headache comes on. Hair loss. Okay. We don't want to use all of these symptoms and say, I got hair loss, I got jinn pulling out. No. And it is one of the signs, but it comes with others. Yeah, I don't want to, at the end the brother comes to me, can you do ruqya on my head? And so my hair comes back. Yeah. Okay, darkening under the eyes, becoming pale, yellow skin, dark skin, especially the hands and feet, spots under the skin, spots. Certain types of pains that you have in the body that can't be explained. The doctors, they don't know what it is, and you go regularly, or health conditions again where they can't explain it. The desire not to get out of the house. Sometimes you come across people that are always in their room, curtains are drawn, don't speak to anyone, they can't speak to anyone. The opposite sometimes. Every time he comes home, he wants to leave. He can't be around family. Frustrated, annoyed, argumentative. He's always on edge. Like he's just waiting for someone to say it and he's gonna snap. Okay? The desire, the feeling of death and despair. This is one of the major ones. You come across people, shabab especially, that they say, or they may open up in a sense where they say, hey, I feel suicidal. I feel like, these type of things. Oh, I'm not saying every single case is linked to the ayn, hasad, or sihr, but there's no harm. وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاء. And shifa for everything, even physical ailments. Shifa is a cure. Seeing dead people in your sleep, or seeing like zombies, that's another whole topic in itself. Dreams, people harming you, black figures, dark figures, animals, snakes, lizards, tigers, predators in the dream in general. Anyone who sees these type of dreams, they should go to, or they should start some type of ruqya program for themselves. To see individuals or to be around individuals, and as soon as you're around that individual, your heart starts to palpate. So you see a certain brother, for example, every time you're with him, you're just not comfortable. You have no raha. Just your heart is like always beating, or sometimes you see it, you look at a brother and he looks a bit scary to you, or something similar. Very likely there could be something that happened, ayn, hasad, or something similar. Physical ailments that can't be explained by doctors. Or sometimes you have an ailment, go to the doctors one day, literally one day they say you've got this major health condition, the next day you go, it's completely gone. Okay? Crying again for no reason. You're generally a happy person, you wake up and you just start crying for no reason. Some of the symptoms like these may increase while you're reciting or listening to the Quran. Other things as a clear cut, you see like figures moving around, or you feel like someone's there all the time behind you. These type of things. These are some of the symptoms or some of the signs that people who are afflicted or affected go through. From the biggest of them and the most common ones of them are twitching, heaviness in the chest, and it's like a mix between huzn and depression and anxiety and these type of things, especially if it comes out of nowhere. These are symptoms that come out of nowhere for you or people around you. Then I would say try to take an avenue in terms of ruqya. Either it can just be listening to an audio clip online for someone reputable, Sheikh Khalid Hibshi or other than him, or do yourself ruqya, or go to a trusted raqi, a raqi that's not there just to take the money. And people may say لا يسترقون, Hadith of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Looking at all of the ahadith and the aqwal al-ulama, if you have a haja, you don't fall under that hadith in terms of the 70,000 who will not get Jannah بغير حساب ولا عذاب. If you have a haja, it's like going to doctor, same thing, exactly the same. If you don't have a reason and you're going there, it's a problem. But if you have a legitimate reason, it's like going to a doctor and seeking help and aid from a doctor. Inshallah ta'ala. I think it's 1 minute to adhan. طيب. We'll do 1 minute until the adhan. After the adhan, we'll take a brief Q&A for salah, inshallah ta'ala. And then we'll conclude today's discussion. Bismillah. Barakallahu feek. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Begin, inshallah ta'ala. Does anyone has any kind of questions related to the topic? More than welcome to ask, inshallah ta'ala. Question? Yeah, so in terms of the Sheikh asked the question, if someone has a jabba, for example, so they didn't intend to remove the blessings, can the individual himself say Allahumma barik li or Allahumma barik alayha or whatever it's in relation to? Um, if he can ask the individual to do it, it would be better at the same time. Or generally speaking, whenever there's a discussion about something that, and let's just say my cup of coffee, and the brother's like, oh, you got a nice cup of coffee. I was like, oh, barakallahu li, or barakallahu. I keep saying it, so it kind of push them into saying it, and just be in the habit of saying it. Inshallah, if you say it for yourself, hope that it will be protected. But it's best to ask the individual to do it. And it goes on to another question. If you know someone has an ain on your car or on a particular aspect or hasad, how to remove it? So there's ways to remove it. The best way, as narrated in the hadith of Muhammad sallallahu or a hadith of Muhammad sallallahu is to get the water of the individual. You have to ask the individual for their ghusl water will be the best. After you get their water, you apply it on your back, and you should remove the effects of it. If you feel that it's going to cause fitna and fasad, sometimes if you ask a brother, and he'll be like, I don't have no hasad over you, why am I going to have hasad? It causes arguments or fitna. There's another method you can use called taking the athar. So for example, I drank from this water today. My hands are all over it. Okay? You can take this athar of mine, wash it, and use that water. The effects will be much less. It won't be as good as ghusl. Wudu is not as good as ghusl. This is not as good as wudu, and so on and so forth. And some of the questions is again in relation to that. If you use it once, would you be completely cured from the ain or hasad? Wallah, sometimes it will be, and sometimes it won't. Some individuals' hasad is so strong it causes death. But you use it once, the wudu water or the ghusl water, it may reduce a lot of the effects. It doesn't mean it's going to reduce all of them. But it's best not to keep asking the individual, and it's going to cause problems. So when they do give you the ghusl water, top it up with your own water and mix it so you have more of the water, and intend, applying it on your back, on your head and your back to remove whatever the effects are from the ain or the hasad. Inshallah ta'ala. Yes. 100%. But like there's in terms of hijama, the effects of hijama when it comes to ayn and hasad. Wallahi al-azim, in the last 2 years, I've not seen something so powerful like hijama does. Individuals who have severe ayn and hasad to the level where it's causing them severe anxiety, severe distress, difficulties, not being able to pray in jama'ah, hiding in the bathroom. After one session of hijama, walillahi alhamd, and it is only from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the individual can now pray in jama'ah, no problem. No problem. And other individuals have severe depression and heaviness and darkness in the chest. One session of hijama with the intention of removing ayn, hasad, or whatever it is from the shayateen had massive, massive effects. I think, wallah, I'm not sure if what Sheikh Isa wants to do, but because I limited it, I broke down the lecture into two, because you don't want to cover, and it's not a dawrah, stay 5 hours, 6 hours. But maybe in the second part, if we were going to do it, that would be the one where we'll be discussing how to remove all of these things, suhara, how they act and how they behave, so we know how to protect ourselves and remove their sihr and the likes. But that probably I'll discuss with Sheikh Isa and see what he says, inshallah ta'ala. No. No, Sheikh. Mm. Yeah, so the Sheikh asked, do you find a rise in ain hasad and the likes? I think there could be a few reasons behind it. Um, maybe because I'm in the field, I always hear it and I always see it. So maybe it's a bit different for me. But generally speaking, I would say, especially through COVID, most of my clients and stuff, they have an affliction now. And yeah, you don't have to be a genius, but like, COVID, people lost their jobs. They never had wealth. Everyone's on social media nowadays. So if they see someone have a blessing that, they've probably lost because they don't have money, it's very easy, Ikhwani, I'm telling you, and the brothers and sisters online, I'm telling you, it is so easy for you to lose your blessings from one post. Is it really worth it? Is it worth it that you're renting a Mercedes for a day, you're going to put it there, and so it causes an accident, and you're only renting it anyway, and is it really, really worth it to put your blessings out there? But you get, okay, you may have 120,000 likes or maybe even 50 likes. Is it worth it that you're going to remove your blessings for that? Even physically. You could do all of your ibadat and your athkar. If Allah wills, it's going to happen. One of the best things to do is preserve your blessings. Hide your blessings and your ni'am. The same way that you hide your sins. Same way that you hide your sins. But yeah, it's definitely on an increase. I think people are finding out more as well. There's more knowledge out there. So people come to understand very, very quickly now. Okay, this is something from the unseen. Let me work with it. There's many ruqa nowadays, many mashayikh. The information is more available. And the opposite is true as well. The opposite true. So there are a lot more people getting involved in these type of things to harm, believers and other than them. So I think it is definitely on an increase. It's definitely on an increase. And I would recommend, if you could take one thing away from today's discussion, don't leave your athkar, morning and evening. Don't leave it. No matter how sleepy, tired you are, don't leave your morning, evening athkar. It's a fortress for a reason. It's a fortress for a reason. And there's many times, I was being in the Quran. Wallahi al-Azim, the Quran is just something different. Like one time in a session, I was reciting on someone who's afflicted, and the person's like, I can't see you. I was like, wait, you can't see me, I'm standing right here. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put hijab between me and the shaitan. So the shaitan was just panicking. Like, where you gone? You're gone blurry. I don't know. But the Quran is powerful. Never ever neglect the Quran for anything, any difficulty you're going through life. If it's your chest, there's ayat there. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Whatever fitna you're going through, be it from the unseen or even the seen, طيب, you have an answer in the Quran. You have an answer in the Quran. No. There's a few, but it all comes back down to the morning and evening askar. So, for example, I would say never leave La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu yuhyi wa yumitu wa ala kulli shay'in qadir. Or you have a few variations, we recite that 100 times a day. Don't leave that. Don't leave your ayatul kursi after salah. Don't leave that. Because only 5 times you're going to be reciting. Very, very powerful. Very powerful. Like some of the effects you see, like you would not believe it until you see someone who's afflicted. Like you, some ayat that you recite, it it changes dynamics. And like you don't see it, but things are happening all around you. There's light here, there's light there. Jinns are saying there's light coming out your eyes. And you're just reciting Quran. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facility. It's not from any individual. It's not from any individual. Like the Shaykh said when he was having a discussion with Iblis, maybe not. He said, Allahu khayrun hafiza. Game over. He couldn't do nothing. Nothing. Inna kayda shaytani kana da'if. The essence of everything is that we have Allah. And if you move forward in terms of knowing that you have Allah Jalla fi'ala, literally you can break down any wall in front of you, any difficulty, any depression, any whatever it may be, we have Allah. That's the main understanding to take from. But in terms of azkar, La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu, until the end of it, 100 times. Ayat al-Kursi after each salah. And another one that I would say that's quite important, but it's not too difficult, are the ones that are specifically there to kind of protect you. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. أعوذ بكلمة الله التامات من شر ما خلق. It's not too much. It's not too much, but these ones are definitely ones that will, I would say, give you a very good footing in protecting yourself from the shayateen in general. Barakallahu feek. Sure. Well, Surah Al-Jinn has a lot of mention. It has a lot of mentions. So you have to understand that there's a psychology behind jinn in general. There's a psychology behind shayateen, because not every jinn that afflicts is from the tribe of the shayateen. Sometimes it could be Muslim jinn. They could be a Muslim jinn. Sometimes it could be a Jewish jinn. Sometimes it's Christian jinn. Sometimes it's Hindu jinn. They have their families. So when you're reciting Surah Al-Jinn, for example, generally it doesn't have any particular fa'idah in that sense, but any ayah from the Quran, if you're intending, whatever you're intending by it, will have an effect. If you're intending by it to give them da'wah, you can give them da'wah. Sometimes it softens the heart. Sometimes jinns start crying. They're like, Wallahi, I believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, khair, take a shahada, go do umrah. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes if they're stubborn, خلاص, okay. بيننا وبينك يعني safe. We recite the ayat of jihad and they get scared and they run for their lives. Wallahi al-azim, just ayat of jihad. Allah mentions certain things. Or the punishment of Jahannam. How strong Allah. Sometimes just tawheed. I remember reciting one brother, just the ayat of tawheed. Wallahu alladhi la ilaha illahu alimul ghaybi wa shahada. The jinn was panicking. I was like, yeah, just if you're panicking, leave. What's the problem? Point being is, depending on what you're reciting, will have an effect. But in terms of shifa and protection, the best of them, like Surah Al-Baqarah, how shayateen can't enter the home for 3 days. Ayat al-Kursi, Aman Rasul, Falaq al-Nas. These are the ones to be recited regularly. But if you wanted to do any particular ruqya, then you have other ayat as well. Yeah, you have other ayat. Oh, yeah. Prayer. خير خير إن شاء الله. بارك الله فيك. We're going to break for salah. بارك الله فيكم وأحسن الله إليكم. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this a beneficial gathering, a gathering of khair. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of you and your families. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to have victory over the shayateen. بارك الله فيكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Sheikh Isa said after Salah we will have maybe another 5-10 minutes for questions. There's a few questions online. So if the brothers want to remain behind, you're more than welcome. Barakallah feekum.
الله أكبر الله أكبر.
استقيموا رحمكم الله. استووا. Straighten the lines. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Brothers, just whoever hasn't been here before. So Alhamdulillah, we've been operating as a madrasa for the last 5 years in Birmingham, 5 years plus, and we Alhamdulillah launched as a masjid recently. We request brothers to come and support, inshallah. Our main activities and priority is providing a safe environment for young children to grow up into good Muslims, providing them that teaching, providing them that environment, and also working with teenagers who are struggling in their religion, with any issues they have in their lives, and working on youth programs, inshallah, to help our Muslim community so that we have a generation, inshallah, that flourishes and can continue the Quran, can continue the masajid, and move forward, inshallah. We're requesting brothers, inshallah, if you can, anything you can donate will be helpful. If you have the ability to sponsor a prayer space, it's about £30 a month, inshallah. You can do it online or you could do it on the form with us, inshallah. It will be very, very helpful and very beneficial for us. And it will allow us, inshallah, to continue the work we've been doing for the last 5+ years and, inshallah, move forward and carry on doing further work. Jazakumullah khairan.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده. طيب, so a few more questions inshallah ta'ala before we conclude today's session. Sheikh, you had a question first? You forgot it. خلاص لا بأس إن شاء الله تعالى. طيب, some questions online. Okay. طيب, there's a question online. I'm afflicted with and suffer from eczema. I have been having hijama regularly, but my dermatologist has advised against having hijama due to medical reasons. What should I do? You need to look at both. You have to take what the dermatologist is saying. There may be a particular reason why they're saying what they're saying. So if your health may deteriorate because of the hijama, it can happen. Then it's kind of advised to take them both hand in hand. And if your hijama therapist is someone who is experienced in what they're doing, it's good to see what they say as well, because every individual is different. We have a lot of clients that have eczema in terms of the clinic that I have in London. I don't see why the dermatologist will say what they're saying, unless if you're using like a steroid cream or something similar where your skin has become really thin. You may have to be careful and work around that. Wallahu alam. How can one determine whether there is ayn, hasad or sihr in the house? The only real way to find out is through ruqyah. There's no second option. There may be things which is yani clear cut. Clear cut, there's no doubt. Like two individuals in the home have a very specific dream, for example, or yani you buy a new fridge and it breaks, then you buy a new fridge and it breaks, and you buy a new fridge and it breaks. Um, and it was very likely that someone said something prior about your fridge, and you get ruqya done and see what the situation is. That's the way to kind of find out. There's no other kind of ajib way of like an imam coming to your house. He looks left and right and says, "Yeah, you got jinn. Yeah, you know this guy's playing a bit. You have to be careful." The real only way to do it is for Quran. Sometimes you may recite for an hour and nothing happens. Khair, لا بأس. Live life. Don't think too much about ayn, hasad, sihr all the time, all the time. Yeah, continue. If you have another symptom, you're like, okay, this is a bit. Recite again and see. And if you don't have the ability to recite, then listen to ruqya. If you don't have the ability to listen, then get a sheikh to do ruqya. Come sit with you and do ruqya. And generally speaking, little half an hour sessions, hour sessions, I don't really recommend them because they don't do too much. Because some of the shayateen and jinn, they live maybe 1,000 years. You're doing an hour to them is like 2 seconds, 3 seconds. So for you to really find out, is a sheikh who he has khibrah, he has experience, and he will sit with you maybe 5 hours, 6 hours. Then he'll be like, okay, when he's ta'ba, he's finished, he's tired. And then he will say, okay, maybe let's have another session. I remember a sheikh telling me one time they had someone who had a mental health condition. This person went to a particular raqi 6 times, hour session, hour session. You know how expensive ruqya is nowadays, yeah. So imagine 6 sessions back to back. At the end of it, it was just you got mental health, take medication. Then the same person went to one of my sheikh. The sheikh sat there for maybe 5 hours straight. Ruqya. He saw one sifa in the person. He said, come back. The next time came back again, 5 hours, maybe 6 hours straight. I've seen the sheikh when he does ruqya. At the end of it, maybe he's like, that's how he is. That's how much effort he's putting in. Jinn came up. I was behind there. I'm the one causing this fitna. No. But go to someone who is trusted, really trusted by the people. You know, they're sincere in what they're doing. Inshallah khair, yani, it will have some benefit and it will remove whatever's there with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Other things you can do is make dua. Constantly make dua. If you believe there's ayn or hasad or sihr, ask Allah to remove it, burn it, and see what the effects are. Sometimes if you have a particular effect that you start feeling sick, nauseous, okay, there may be something there. There may be something there. Why is it sometimes symptoms get worse when a person has started to do their recitation or their ruqyah? It's a very good question. This is very common. It gets worse before it gets better. Generally speaking, the shayateen, they prefer to do these things without the individual knowing what they're doing. So if they can push it on to, your marriage is on the rocks because you lot are just arguing, they'll sit back comfortably because they know what their work is happening, but you don't even know what's going on. If they can, for example, cause fitna and fasad in terms of your wealth, and you keep losing wealth all the time. You go to this business project, you lose everything. You go to this business project, your bank closes on you and takes your money. If they can sit back without being exposed, they're enjoying life. As soon as you turn on them and you realize start putting effort, one or two things. Either they're panicking and because they have to do what they have to do, or their ayn or the hasad and it's now being reacted. So the symptoms will increase, it will get worse. Or you're just burning them to shreds. Or they're very arrogant. You know, they want to see who's boss. I remember one time doing ruqya with someone, and first time was like blah blah blah. I don't know what you're saying. Really arrogant. Really arrogant. What's this? I don't know what you're saying. This I don't believe in this. That was his first kind of way to kind of stop the recitation talking. So I gave it da'wah. I always start with the same thing. If they haven't been given da'wah before, I'll give them da'wah. So I started giving da'wah. telling them about Tawheed, telling them about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, telling them that if they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will forgive them, they'll get Jannah, all of these things. I was like, yeah, I believe. Okay, khair. Say your Shahada and leave. Said, okay, I said Shahada, La ilaha, I said the Shahada and left. So I'm speaking to the people, I'm speaking to the person now. In middle of the conversation, it came back. I'm never gonna leave the body. Ha, I lied to you. I said, Wallahi al-Azim, I said, to be honest, before you were kafir, now you're munafiq, you're even worse. Because you said La ilaha illallah, but you lied. And on top of that, you're stupid because you had the opportunity to get Jannah. When I said that, got angry. How dare you call me stupid? Anyway, completed the ruqya that session. He left. 2 weeks later, called me back again because it started playing up. Ruqya. Oh no, I'm gonna tell you where the sihr is. No la business anymore. Stop, you're burning me. I did recite there. I don't know what you're saying. I said, I'm not doing nothing from Allah. I said, you had the opportunity. And I said the first time, I said, if I come back the next time, I'm not going to talk to you. That was over. Between me and you is the sword. He said, no sword. I don't want the sword. You had the opportunity to leave, but you didn't. That was the second time. Third time, it was just completely like, you burnt my hands, you burnt my eyes, you burnt this. So they will have tactics that they will use against you to kind of either scare you off or to kind of, they're threatening you. One time, my own brother, the affliction was like, I know where you live. Of course, akhi, it's my house. You're in my house. But same thing. Second time, started crying. Wallahi, I can't leave. You don't understand. But they lie. They just lies. You take what you need to take, and you leave what you need to leave. But yeah, it will generally get worse before it gets better because now you're affecting whatever's there. Sometimes they could be attached to the body 50 years. You never know. And now you've come across them, harming them, removing them from what they believe to be their home because they're living there for so long. And so they'll try to fight back. They'll try to be aggressive sometimes, or sometimes, and that's why the effects get worse at the beginning, and then slowly it gets better. Allahu a'lam. Is it better to get a raqi if in doubt, or should one recite on themselves, depending on the level of your symptoms? If there's stuff that you are genuinely concerned about, and you're reciting the ruqya and it hasn't improved, but you are pretty sure that it's still from the unseen, then get a raqi to do so. Get a raqi to do it. If generally speaking the symptoms are controlled to an extent, it comes and it goes, it affects and it doesn't affect you, it's best for you to do it yourself. Because every time you're doing ruqya, you're actually worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's best for you to do it yourself. If you can't and you need some backup and you need some assistance from that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed in the Sharia, then go for it. Muhammad sallallahu told Aisha radiallahu anha to get ruqya done. And other companions to get ruqya done. So it's something prescribed in the Sharia. Wallahu a'lam. Any questions from the room? Particular ruqya book. There's no particular ruqya book in terms of dua that comes to mind. But there, if you do want a good reference point, the website of Sheikh Khalil Hibshi is a very good reference point. Very good. He'll have his maqta. He has the ayat of sihr, ayat of ayn hasad, ayat of zawaj, ayat of harq, ayat of adab, ayat. It's quite good. It has all of it there. In terms of dua, wallahu a'lam. I should be producing something soon, so it should be out soon. It will have all the du'as and adhkar and stuff to do on a regular. نعم شيخ. Sheikh Abdul Hamid. والله maybe. Jimmy. I'll ask. Oh, you have it. Okay. خير. I'll ask Sheikh Yasar to form me the picture and then see if I can get it. Inshallah. But yeah, if you have something like that, then yeah, by all means. But remember, the ruqya is a little individualistic as well, because you're not like we have different brothers here. You have some brothers are strong, some brothers they may be physically weak, they may be old, they may be young, they may have maturity, they may not. Same amongst the jinn. So one ayah you may use against them may not affect them much. They may be a bit silly. So you're telling them about Jannah, they'll be like, they don't care. But then you start using the ayat of fire and then they'll understand what you're talking about. So every individual, you need to use what will affect them. وياك شيخ. The children in the house have started getting symptoms of illnesses and has all come sudden. Can this be a sign of ain? If so, what would you advise for the sister to do for her kids? Like I said, it's very difficult to put everything under the bracket of ain, hasad, or sihr. We don't want to be these individuals like some aunties or uncles or even brothers. Yani. They'll be like, yeah, akhi, man, I bought a new car, had an accident. And then you ask him, how fast you? I was going 140, bro, going around the corner. Akhi, that's the problem, and it wasn't because of ain hasad, it was because you've been a bit silly. So every individual, every situation needs to be looked at. If you've looked at the medical route generally, and the doctors are saying it's not possible for him to have this illness at this age, and then boom, boom, and there's just so many different illnesses, one after the other, then go to a raqi. Go to a trusted raqi and see the situation. Or you yourself recite on your children. Falaq, Nas, Ayatul Kursi, Fatiha, miraran. Yani. They say that Fatiha is one of the best surah for ruqyah. Recite on them, blow on them regularly on your hands, wipe over them, like how Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam recited on Hassan and Hussein. So try these methods, recite in ruqyah, water, recite your ruqyah in the water, make them drink it, and see if there's any symptoms there. See if there's any symptoms there, inshallah ta'ala. What about if you don't get symptoms when listening to ruqyah, but you feel something is there? Then you go to, there could be other reasons why. Sometimes and it's a complicated situation. Sometimes it could be trauma related. So every time you go past a particular shop, because say that you had a fight there when you were young, example, every time you go there, your heart starts to beat. Your heart starts to beat. So every time you go past that chicken shop, it's not because there's ayn or hasad or sihr, it's because you had a fight when you were young, so your heart starts to beat. So there could be a link between the two. And sometimes, and a lot of times, the shayateen use trauma. They'll use trauma. Because remember, they're waiting for you to be weak. If they can catch you while you're weak, for them is a good day. So there may be when you're stressed, difficulties, fitting of life, and you're sad or upset, they'll try to get you. So it may be trauma linked with the shayateen as well. So it has to be looked into. If you feel there's something there, try ruqyah for yourself. If you're unable to do so, then go to a trusted raqi, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, so in terms of the ruqyah, yeah, if you're regularly praying salah and you're doing your adhkar, yet you still have these kind of symptoms and situations, then it's best for you to get ruqyah done. If you're not praying, you need to start with the salah. Yeah, you need to start with the salah. And then your adhkar, and then Quran, and so on and so forth. Can drug addiction be from the shayateen? Yeah, it can be from the shayateen. There's ayat in the Quran where some of the mashayikh will use that the shayateen can't have sulta over an individual. And generally that's true. But there's individuals who are severely afflicted, where they will have control of juz. Like the mashayikh mentioned different types of possession. Juz, kamil. Sometimes they only possess a hand. Sometimes they possess the whole individual. Some of them they possess a morsel like the heart or the mind. And compel people to do certain sins. You have to look into your case and see what the most likely situation is, or the most likely situation is. Inshallah ta'ala. Yeah. No. So generally you have sifat of trustworthy ruqa that they're known amongst the people of Ahl Sunnah. Yeah. So there's conditions for araqi, okay, but there's things that you should look out for, where you know if this person is someone who should be trusted or not. From them, stuff that you would, if you see an individual, you know fitran, your heart will just tell you, okay, this guy is a bit weird. From them, they're clean. They have to be clean. If you go to the Iraqi and you got dirty hands and his nails are not cut, you can see that he has all these marks on sweat marks and he's not washed in time. He's kind of dark faced. He has a big mustache over his lip, for example. These type of things are clear cut. You see this guy from a mile away and you're like, okay, this guy he's not doing his fitrah. His fitrah is to cut his nails and cut his mustache. He's going against a clear fitrah. That means there's some problem. That's just from his physical appearance. In terms of other than that, his aqidah is important. His aqidah is so important. People will come, people tell me all these weird stories that this guy came with a pencil and said, look at this pencil. And if you do this, and you blink twice, that means you got a jinn. I said, "Akhi, if you throw a pencil in my eye, I'm gonna blink too." It's just common sense. So like when you come to Iraqi, you have the sifat of trustworthiness in the individual. You see piety in his actions, in his speech, when he's speaking or when he's having a discourse with you. He's not asking for any of your. This was meant to be the second part of the lecture, but khalas. Like he won't ask you for items of your clothing. He won't write boxes with numbers in there. He won't say stuff that you can't hear. That's a condition of ruqyah. Everything has to be audible. Everything he says has to be audible. He can't say, Alhamdulillah. They're doing that is very likely that they're just trying to throw you off. They're trying to throw you off. They can't be asking for items of your clothing or your mother's name or your maiden name and all these weird questions. Or say, give me a hat for a week and I'll let you know if there's sihr. Straight up, clear cut avenues in terms of ruqyah. I'm going to recite on you. You let me know how you feel. You have to be careful of individuals that you go to and then they already insinuating that you'll have an affliction, because they're going to tell you now, for example, they'll give you 400 symptoms. If you feel tired, if you feel this, if you feel this, even if you don't feel it, now it's already in your head. You'll be like, if you're sitting there for an hour, you're going to start feeling a bit bored and tired. And they'll be like, were you a bit tired? Yes. Oh, you got it. Come back next week, another £150. Thank you, brother. It's like that. So have your wits about the situation, and anything that he comes with is kitab and sunnah. And he's known in the community. That's very important. People don't say question mark about his aqidah. They don't say stuff about his behaviors, his antics online, or his antics in terms of the community and society at large. That's probably one of the most important things, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, you have methods. So it depends. Like for example, if you're doing it for children, you can recite, and the intention is there. You have to have intention. إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى. So if you just recite, a lot of people they will say, "Ah, ya akhi, I recite the whole Quran." They have no intention to remove ayn, hasad, sihr, or to affect the unseen. So they could be reciting Quran, no problem. Had a brother, he only had insomnia. That's it. He was reciting Quran. He goes, "Yeah, I'm a student of knowledge. I'm this. I'm this." Khalas, no problem. There was something in him. I said, "Okay, just try this for me. You let me know how you feel." So I gave him a ruqyah to listen to. He was listening to ruqyah. Within 10 minutes, he's nodding his head left and right. He's like calling me in the middle. Like, "Akhi, what happened, man? You're doing something to me." But in terms of the Fatiha, just recite it with the intention, and it depends on what you're doing it for. If you're doing it for because you believe something, or there's something you're feeling in your chest, example, or maybe some ayn or hasad, recite the Fatiha with the intention to remove it. You don't have to put your hands and blow. You can do that if you want to as well. They're all jaiz, they're all permissible. If you want to do it for someone next to you, or for example, you can say Alhamdulillah, recite, and blow on them if you want, or you could blow in your hands and rub on them, or you could recite Fatiha and blow in water and drink it, olive oil again, different methods, and they're all permissible to do. Yeah. That's it. Uh, uh, لا بأس, no problem. The Sheikh's asking, like, has any of the cases kind of affected you? Um, uh, Yani it's a jihad, isn't it? At the end of the day, like honestly speaking, this field, I would say, comprises of two kind of sciences: the medical science and the science of jihad. So, like when people ask certain questions, they'll be like, for example, some of the scholars would say, for example, you can use salt water. Using salt water has an effect. But you have mashayikh that mention, "Ya akhi, this is not found in the Kitab and Sunnah." Where's paracetamol found in the Kitab and Sunnah? But it has an effect because it's a medical field. And no one will ever say that you're going outside the Kitab and Sunnah to try to seek cure from. And it's like jihad. It's like jihad. So, for example, there may be methods that you're using against the jinn that's not necessarily found in the Kitab and Sunnah. I know one sheikh, he uses like massage guns and stuff when he's doing the ruqyah. Okay, you might look at it and think, what's this guy doing? But he uses the principle where Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah and other than him would beat the client or beat the person that's possessed. Muhammad sallallahu smacked someone in the back one time when he was afflicted or possessed. But there's methods that you will come across You won't necessarily find in the Kitab and Sunnah. Sorry, what was the question, Akhi? I went on something else there. Okay. You know what it is? This is one of the things, Akhi. For every individual, you see the 5 mindsets and the 5 amal al-qulub, that is what makes you you. You know, like for example, not every brother can walk down the road, and if a brother calls him, say, "Akhi man, I got jumped." Yeah, he'll be like, "Yeah, I'm on it, I'm there," and then within 2 seconds, he's there, he's ready. He's like, who is it? Let me call." Not everyone's like that. Some brothers you call, "I got jumped." Like, "Alright, call 999. Astaghfirullah. So the point being is, even when it comes to the unseen, there were some brothers that I know from like Jahiliyyah, and they used to always fight. Big brothers, hench, strong muscles, and this. I said, "Akhi, people like you should do ruqya." Because, "Akhi, you know what? There's beef, I'm there. But if it's shayateen, don't call me. I'm staying at home." So the person has to be he has to be ready for the fight in it. So yeah, you do get affected. You do, a lot of mashayikh get affected. There's brothers that do ruqya and stuff that give nasiha. So they're all being affected one way or another. From the general effects are like vomiting blood, vomiting, nauseousness, paranoia, fear, these type of things. But at the end of the day, we have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we fight. This is what we're here for, isn't it? Really. Everyone gets affected in different ways. And it's just from the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Maybe Allah will give you some understanding in the dunya. Hopefully in the akhirah, we'll see mountains of ajr. And that's the hope, isn't it? So, however they really affect you, at the end of the day, every attack that they attack you with, you have an answer in the Quran and Sunnah. Every single attack, wallahi al-azim, I'm telling you. There's people who are depressed. You say one time, Allahumma inni abduk, ibn abdik, a long dua. At the end, وَجَلَاءَ حُزْنِي وَذَهَبَ هَمِّي. Brother comes up, he goes, "Akhi, what did you do to me? I didn't do anything, because I'm so happy." I said, "Oh, Jay, read this dua now, from now on, and you'll be okay." وَلَا تَخَافُوهُمْ وَخَافُونِي إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. That fear, the Prophet said, "What happened? I'm not scared anymore." The answer was in the Kitab and the Sunnah. So, in terms of their attacks, they're feeble attacks, and we have Allah, so it doesn't really make a difference what they try to affect us with. 100%. 100%. It's seeking ilm, and not only that, it's seeking a different level with Allah, man. A different connection. Like, you start going through things that no one can help. Actually, no one in this world can help you. If you're telling an individual, "I'm feeling like the jinn is moving in my body," what is anyone going to do for you? No one can do anything for you except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's where it comes with your action of your heart. Literally, from the darkest of dark could be the light of the light. Just from one sincere dua. That, because if you never went through that situation, Allah would never have given you the tawfiq to make that dua. And so these trials are trials that, even though it's surrounded by so much difficulty, fear, you know, um, people are always scared about these things, but it's surrounded with so much light, where there's like discussions of like, certain jinns will discuss things. "Oh, because of what you've done here, my whole family became Muslim. Because of this da'wah that you said to this jinn gave da'wah to so and so." And they have their own world. And so, like, there's so much khair that comes from it. That's why it's a gift to the believer. It's not the opposite. No matter how difficult you feel, no matter how much sadness you go through, no matter how much pain and suffering and loss that you feel, at the end of it, wallahi al-azim, like, if you stay firm, dunya is only what, 65, 70 years maybe. The akhirah, you may have things that you'll be like, Allahu Akbar, I wish another 10 jinns tried it on me, because of the stuff that you see in the akhirah. What's the ayah? Uh, will come to me, inshallah. But yeah, that's our tests in the dunya, and this is just from one of many. No one will say that when Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam went through his difficulties, it was because he was a bad man. Who says that? Who says that when he was afflicted with sihr is because he had a dark heart? Who's ever said that? Yet when we get afflicted here nowadays, and the person's struggling and he's upholding his deen, he's coming close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's growing his beard, he's staying away from bad people, he's dropped all of his previous crimes against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yet he's still going through it. And then he comes to an imam, and imam says to the individual, "Oh, it's because you've got a bad heart." You know, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي, it's because you're away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why you're feeling what you're feeling. That's why you're not getting cured. It's a gift. It's a gift. You change the mindset of the individual today, you never know, the victory may come tomorrow. But if you keep telling him he's bad, while the shaitan's giving him wasawis every day that he's bad, and where's the victory going to be? You have to have husn al-dhann in Allah. And it comes from Allah, and tawfiq comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So I think we'll end with this last question here, inshallah ta'ala. Do you have to have the intention for ruqyah when you're doing it? Yes, 100%. You could recite your whole of the Quran, every single harf, without the intention of ruqyah, and it won't affect the ayn, hasad, sihr, jinn, whatever it is. You could just recite Fatiha with the intention of it being, there's different intentions the mashayikh say. Some say tathir, have the intention of purifying. Some say the intention of burning. I prefer the burning intention specifically. And you see effects that you've never seen before. So in terms of intention, yes, you need to have the correct intention to remove ayn, hasad, sihr. And the best way, or one of the ways, is to intend to burn it with the recitation you're doing. And again, it depends on what you're reciting for. If there's jinn, there's different types. Again, sometimes you be polite and soft with them at the beginning. Even the way that you recite. One time I changed up the recitation. So the ayat of harq, for example. نَقُولُ طُوقُ عَذَابَ الْحَرِيقِ. And you're saying it with like quwwah and strength. And jinn's like, why are you saying it like that? But all of these things have effects. All of these things have effects. But one of the most important is to have strength in what you have. And we have strength because we have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we have His deen. Jalla fi ula. Barakallahu feekum. I do believe that we may have another session, inshallah ta'ala, and that will be more discussing on how to protect yourself, how to burn the sihr and what they use and so on and so forth. But I'll leave that to Shaykh Isa and the organizers here, Al-Hafidhun. Barakallahu feekum wa ahsanallahu ilaykum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of you and your families, grant you all cure and shifa, and all those that are in need from the Muslims around the world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strengthen our iman and our connection to Him Jalla fi ula, and protect us from any harm that comes from the unseen, be it ayn, hasad, wa sihr. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Do you want your child to have a deep and loving connection with the Quran? Do you aspire to make them confident Muslim leaders? Then look no further. We at Al-Hafidhun Academy aim to help your children excel in their Islamic knowledge in a fun and exciting learning environment. With class sizes limited to only 15 students, we ensure focus on each child from the time they join us. Classes are monitored by Qari Isa, former Quran teacher in Masjid al-Haram, Makkah. What makes us unique? We utilize modern technology to enhance traditional teaching methods. This allows parents to track their child's individual progress from our exclusive app. Enroll your children now as spaces are limited. For more information, call us on 0800 009 6879 or register on our website at www.alhafidhunacademy.co.uk. Al-Hafidhun Academy, where your children connect with the Quran. Do you want your child to have a deep and loving connection with the Quran? Do you aspire to make them confident Muslim leaders? Then look no further. We at Al-Hafidhun Academy aim to help your children excel in their Islamic knowledge in a fun and exciting learning environment.